These are the 4 steps of mathematical formulation of LPP. These are the 4 steps of mathematical formulation of LPP. Fine. So next thing is, let me rub this one. Let me rub this one. Fine. The second one is general formulation of LPP. So what happens in general formulation of LPP? So in order to find values of n decision variables, that is x1 comma x2 comma x3 up to xn, whether it is to be maximized or minimized, the objective function. Fine. So in order to find the value of n decision variables, whether it is to be maximized or minimized, the objective function, that is z is equal to c1 x1 plus c2 x2 plus c3 x3 plus and so on up to cn xn. This is what equation number 1. Fine. And also satisfy m constraints. Fine. This is general formulation of LPP. A11 x1 plus A12 x2 plus A13 x3 up to A1 n xn, that is B1. Fine. A21 x1, A22 x2, A23 x3 up to A2n xn in bracket greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, then greater than or equal to B2, and so on and so on and so on. Fine. Fine. It is AM1 x1 plus AM2 x2 plus AM3 x3 up to AMN xn, that is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to Bn. Fine. This is equation number 2. Fine. This is equation number 2. Fine. Where constraints may be in the form of inequality. Where the constraints may be in the form of inequality. Constraints may be in the form of inequality. What are the inequalities? It may be less than or equal to, or it may be equal to, or it may be greater than or equal to. Any one of the signs. Fine. Even in the form of equal to. And finally satisfy non-negative restrictions. And finally satisfy non-negative restrictions. Very important it is. Non-negative instruction, that is x1 is greater than or equal to 0, x2 is x2 is greater than or equal to 0. In the same way, x3 is greater than or equal to 0, and so on. Xn is greater than or equal to 0. This is equation number 3. So let us have a small repetition of this one. So the general formulation of LPP is nothing but in order to find the value of n decision variables such as x1, x2, x3 up to xn with respect to the objective function, whether it is to be maximized or minimized. Fine. So this is a general formulation of LPP, that is z is equal to c1 x1 plus c2 x2 plus c3 x3 plus up to cn xn, which is equation number 1, and also satisfy you m constraints. What are those constraints? Here it is constraints a11 x1, a12 x2, a13 x3, and so on. These are what constraints. These type of equations we have already dealt in numerical and statistical methods subject, which is there for second semester. Fine. In second chapter we have Gauss elimination, Gauss Jordan, Gauss Seidel, where we have solved system of linear equations using Gauss elimination, Gauss Jordan, Gauss Jacobi. Fine. We have used these equations only to solve in the form of matrix. We have solved them, but whereas here we are supposed to solve these linear equations using linear programming problem. Fine. So there are two types of formulations of linear programming problem. First one is mathematical formulation of LPP, whereas the second one is general formulation of LPP. Fine. So thank you for the day. Thank you very much.